They got a van.
So what did they do?
Called on their granddaughter to drive them through.
In 2015, I became a full-time caregiver for my grandparents, meet Fred and Joan, when their health deteriorated due to Parkinson's and dementia. The biggest lesson I learned was how truly difficult it was for them to lose their independence and have to ask for assistance. It got me thinking that there is just so much that we just don't understand and we can't relate to because we haven't been through it yet. Things that when shared with the general public can help us all to have a clearer understanding of what's involved in the aging process. Hi, I'm Amanda Fugate-Moss, and I'm the creator of Driving the Daisies.
I'm Timothy Patrick Murphy, songwriter and composer.
Driving the Daisies is a dramedy musical that explores what it's like to lose independence and have to rely on others as we age.
Fun, authentic, and very bold, Driving the Daisies tells the tough stories of aging, disease, and loss of independence while using humor and music to keep the audience engaged. It tells the real stories of these dismissed generations through our eyes. We have a strong vision about this project with a lot of stories to share. We know what it can accomplish when it comes to fruition. We have a lot of interest, but we still need your support to make it a reality.
My inspiration for this show was Ernest Thompson, Norman Lear, and Rachel Bloom. Many shows make reference to the older generations, but they gloss over the real health issues while focusing primarily on the youth. Representation like this is very difficult to find on TV.
When you contribute to our campaign, you're supporting a woman-driven show made up primarily of older cast and crew that uplifts and supports the voices of the aging generations of men and women going through the aging process right now. Driving the Daisies tells their stories through their perspective while raising awareness within our society without judgment.
I see. It helps no bending, stretching, or straining.
And what do you think about that? You think that's a good gift?
And no playing with your weed whacker trying to get your socks on. That's not nice.
Thank you so much for helping us bring Driving the Daisies to fruition.
Driving the daisies all the way back home.
Hi there, I'm Veronica Scheyving, and I'm here to share some of my journey with caretaking for my mom. The years after my dad passed away, he suddenly dropped dead of a heart attack after being scammed of almost $100,000. So I was immediately, as first child and daughter, the next three kids are boys, and then my sister, and then my adopted brother. So being that I'm in the state of California and the oldest and a girl, that became my role. And I stepped up to help. My mom was completely shocked because I think everybody expected my dad to go last, my mom to go first. My mom had cancer 4 different times, including colon cancer that was almost stage 4. And so when my dad suddenly dropped dead of a heart attack after the scam and realizing he wasn't going to get his money back, my mom hadn't paid bills for all of their marriage. And at that point, that was 2019. And they were married like 61 years at that point, or almost, well, yeah, technically 61 years. So my mom hadn't written anything other than a check here and there to pay people like the gardener and all that kind of thing. My dad handled all the finances. He handled the grocery shopping, because when you have 6 kids and your parents are foster parents and they have 2 babies at a time. There's too many kids to have to wrangle and go to the grocery store. Plus, to be fair, my dad was really good at economizing and figuring things out. He was a mathematician. He was an electrical engineer for Hughes Aircraft for 25 years. So he did all of that. So all of a sudden, I'm thrust into that role. I'm 20 minutes away, just outside of Simi Valley, in the valley, the regular valley, San Fernando Valley in California. And I mobilized. I'm also, I should tell you, a professional organizer. And so this is something that would be my forte. And I had explained to my mom that if she was coachable and she allowed me to help her in the way that I needed to, the way I help other clients, that I would not charge her any money. Of course, you know, it's your mom, right? And but that if she was going to make me do everything her way, and her way, with her having obsessive compulsive disorder, also known as OCD, to the extreme, I knew that it would be a lot easier if she let me do it my way and didn't slow things down with all of her minute requirements and all of that. Anyway, she, of course, was going to make it difficult. And I knew it was going to be difficult to some degree, but I knew that it was important that somebody in the family bridge that care, because my dad had kind of moved into the caretaker somewhat of my mom, even though she didn't really need it. My dad was going to the gym, also known as getting out, going to the gym, but socializing with other people, shopping, all kinds of things, because he was more of the, you know, get around kind of guy and the extrovert. So she was home, but he would do the cooking because he also loved to do the cooking. He's Italian, so need I say more? Anyway, so I moved in and started, I don't mean moved in and stayed there all the time, but I mean moved in and immediately started figuring out all the finances, how things had to be paid, when they were due, identifying all of the bills. That was fun because my dad's filing system was left a lot to be desired. I had done it for years for him and he still didn't follow it. He was the kind of guy who threw all the receipts into a huge lawn and leaf trash bag and threw it under the beds. Yeah, not so convenient and not so easy to track. So I set to work doing that, setting it up on a computer, making sure that I made everything an automatic payment because there weren't too many of those. My dad paid everything, you know, by the due date. And started doing that. At the same time, I started doing the cooking, the shopping. I'm helping clean because she knows I can please her. She had a cleaning crew that would come in, but they were doing it for a while, but then she just decided, you know, well, it's easier to just have you do it. So I was working like almost every day, many hours a day, like usually like a full-time job, besides doing my clients that were organizational clients. And then at one point I worked the decennial census for the Census Bureau for a while. So I was just, plus my own husband who ended up falling and getting hurt. So, and crushing all of the bones in his heel. So I was like a one-armed paper hanger trying to get stuff done, and she's thwarting my efforts with all her requirements and her complaints, and she's not the easiest person to do things for. We had gone to therapy an entire 4 times before my dad passed away, where my mom was identified as what is called a dark triad. What is that? It's a combination of a narcissist, a psychopath, and a Machiavellian manipulator. So how somebody could be all those things, have so many kids, and manage what she managed, I don't even know how that happened, except that she basically enjoyed babies and otherwise didn't do a lot of other things. Like, she was cookie chairman. These are all things that you can sit and, you know, tabulate things and feel like you have a job. And I mean, they were jobs, but seasonal kind of jobs. And my dad was, you know, doing more, and I was doing more when I lived at home, but I left home at 18. Anyway, so I'm going through all this stuff. It was a difficult 3 years. They just kept devolving and devolving over time. She had no filter. She had severed ties with our oldest child, a daughter, and her family. And always felt that boys were more important than girls. So our son, you know, excuse me, was considered better, easier, all the things, just like my 4 brothers were over my sister and I. And this didn't make it any easier. Battling her to, you know, do what she was supposed to do health-wise was not easy. She wanted to eat what she wanted to eat. She did take all her supplements and her medication every day, and she actually organized that herself for some time. But we started researching having her have a cochlear implant, which one of my brothers had looked into for her, and started the ball rolling, but then he stepped out and was like, no, she's too difficult. So I picked up that ball, and at 89 years old, my mother got the surgery to have a cochlear implant. Fast forward several weeks, and she ends up with a raging staph infection in the wound. And she had to have a whole nother surgery several months later, where they took it out, they cleaned it, they warned us they probably wouldn't put it back in. So all of the strides she had made to actually hear, again, because she was almost profoundly deaf, which runs in the family, I guess, she had to go under the knife again just to keep from sepsis being like a death nail in her. And so I was able to catch that, and we were able to have that surgery again. And that's when she just became utter and complete madness, incorrigible. I don't know who would have been able to handle her better or as well as I did. And I'm an incredibly patient person and long-suffering, but that woman just took me to my last nerve. And nearing the time when we were going to finish cleaning out her house, keeping what she was going to keep and really trying to narrow it down, and her fighting me every step of the way, and me sneaking boxes and boxes of paperwork out and getting rid of old stuff that she did not need, would never need, receipts, bills. I mean, my brother's cum files from all of their schools, giving those and their yearbooks to them, and so on. The final straw was her and a sister-in-law talking about me, and my mom not defending me, and I just finally had it and said, "You're not my mom. You don't protect me or defend me like a mom, no matter what I've done for you." And we had literally moved her into assisted living at that point, but we're probably 2 weeks out from being able to put her home on the market and sell it and close all of that out. And because she needed more and more care, and I really needed to get back to my life as an actor and clients and just living, and all of this went on during the pandemic, let me tell you, which didn't make it any easier, and that was all very dramatic to her, and understandably so. It was dramatic for everybody, but you know, nobody else wanted to be around her and found that to be the excuse as to why they couldn't. So convenient when people are only 14 houses away and they can't come and help, even though they're the blessed select few of the boys in the family. Anyway, so I finally said, get in the car, you know, I'm taking you back, and I quit. And she said, you can't quit. I said, oh, but I do quit. Well, you know, that you can't do that. I need help. And I said, no, you're going to get the help you need. And I'm still your daughter, but I'm not going to be your slave, and I'm not going to be your whipping person, the person who gets gaslit. And as the therapist had diagnosed, the family scapegoat. So I dropped her off. She said she was going to pray to God that he sent her someone to take care of her better than I had. I mean, you can't write this stuff. This stuff writes itself. But, you know, I dropped her off. I returned her keys. I had her sign something saying I returned the key because her memory was not going so well at 89. And after she'd been in assisted living for some time, she caught COVID for the first time. And that ended up being her demise. It was raging through the assisted living environment. There was not enough staff. I was constantly battling the big things. You know, you pick your battles and you don't worry about all the little minutia, but you do have to hit the highlights of what needs to be done. And so I was always, had been standing in that gap, but I stepped away and left it to my brother and his wife, 14 houses away, to talk to them. And of course, the assisted living facility kept calling me and telling me that they weren't really doing their job, and on and on and on. The upshot of all of it is my mom believed in life that she was the only person on this entire planet who loved Christmas, the holiday, the day, as much as she did. There was no one else. She loved it more than anyone else on this planet. And when my sister asked, you know, do you think she's going to make it through all of this? I said, I do. She's tough. And she always jokes and says that God leaves the evil ones behind to torture the rest of us. I'm not sure she thought she was talking about herself, but I can confirm that she was. I mean, there's humor. There's dark humor in all of this. But wouldn't you know, I called Christmas that she would pass away on because I said she would want us to always remember her after she left this earth. And at the moment she was passing away on Christmas evening, I was getting AFib and my heart issues began. And not that I believe she can do anything to me from wherever she is, but if she could, I believe she would have sent it to me. God love the woman, but I don't have regrets. I regret that I didn't speak up sooner, although I did tell her how I felt all the way along. I told her, you know, all along how ridiculous she was, and that I was doing the best I could for her, and she continued to be negative and all the things that she was. But I can see the importance of a loved one taking over.
I didn't understand that.
Don't you love electronics? Don't you love Siri and Alexa? Even when you're not talking about them, they insert themselves into your conversation. I feel like my mom's maybe here. Do 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 do. Anyway, that's it. I'm going to sign off now. But I wish you the best, and I pray for all those caregivers out there, because it's true love that has you do it. And I commend all of you, even if you're not appreciated. Much love.
When I was a child, I took hold of his hand, stood on the top of his shoes. He smiled at me with all his heart and then gently hummed a tune. And we moved backward and forward. Oh, such a simple thing. And in that moment, I learned about love and the peace that love can bring. And I'm dancing with my father, making circles in the room. Yes, I'm dancing with my father by the light of the moon. I'm dancing, I'm dancing, I'm dancing with him. Now I'm not a child, and some mornings I wake, wanna stay home and just hide. I close the door, forget my dreams, and pretend there's no one inside. Then I move back to that moment. I'm standing on his shoes, and that memory fills up my heart, and I know what love can do. And I'm dancing with my father, making circles in the room. Yes, I'm dancing with my father by the light of the moon. I'm dancing with him. Everywhere I go, it's so sweet to see a father reaching for his child. Then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm dancing with my father, making circles in the room. Yes, I'm dancing with my father by the light of the moon. I'm dancing with him.
If you would share your care, you were talking about your mom and your grandma last night, a little bit about that, about what you experienced and saw firsthand.
Well, yeah, it was definitely, I don't know, what was it? I grew up military, so my father, we were bouncing around all over the states and in on the country sometimes. But we would stop back whenever we get back into town where my mother lived, which was in Paducah, Kentucky. And when I was growing up, I guess I was maybe about between the ages like 8 and 10, somewhere up in there. My great grandmother was still living, and my grandmother was taking care of her at the time, with the bathing and things like that. And just like, with dementia, things digress where she was having, temper tantrums with things, of her not being able to get what she wanted, or the food that she wanted. And my grandmother was very, very patient, and kind of going back to the younger days of like when your childhood, according to some of the stories that my grandmother told me, that her relationship with her mother wasn't all that great either. But yet, through the grace of God and her beliefs, she took care of her mother, who maybe didn't take care of her as well as she should have when she was a child. Um, And throughout that, just watching her go through that, the bathing, the making sure that she was taken care of, and keeping her door locked at night so she wouldn't walk out or wander off, things like that. Um, I didn't quite understand everything as well as I do now, but I could see it was a lot of work. And my grandmother was a mother of 8 children, so you can imagine. Um, at least when I was around, the first maybe 3 to 4 of her children already had moved out of the house and had their own lives, so on and so forth. But she still had my uncle, 2 of my uncles, and an aunt that was still living with her at the time all of this was going on. And she still did most of the work herself when it came to taking care of my great grandmother. So I could see it was a lot of work. It's a lot of work. And right now, my mother is living on her own. Everything is mentally is still fine, but it worries me, you know. She's there by herself. She could slip and fall. And though my sisters are up the road, but what if she slips and falls and she still can't get to the phone? It could be, you may not hear from her in days. So the stuff like that gets me worried now that, she's getting older.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. And has your family considered looking into I don't know what it's called, but you know that button, I've fallen and I can't get down.
Yes, my mother has one, and she flats out refuses to wear it.
Okay.
She's stubborn,
No. Yeah, because
stubborn,
that's
and
quite helpful when you have somebody that lives alone if they have that.
she lives absolutely alone. She has 2 versions of this thing. My aunt gave her one that she could wear around her wrist, and the other one goes on around her neck. Why she doesn't wear them, I don't know. She's 80, she'll be 82 or 83, 83 this year in January. And yes, she's not an invalid by any means, but she's walking around. She has her walker, she has her cane, she drives to bingo every Friday. But she just flats out refuses this. She goes, I'm healthy, I'm doing all right, that kind of thing. What's that old saying? You're fine until you're not.
Yeah.
Just put it on, Mom. Just put it on, please. That kind of thing.
Wow.